Good morning and welcome to the podcast where we talk about everything Jesus and God, Yahweh. Today I would like to discuss why you should not charge people for God's services because one, God's services is free. And I want to relate this back to scripture because there's three different points where it talks about this. The first one was when Naaman went to Elisha to be cured of his leprous disease and Gehazi's greed. The second point is when the temple is repaired and it tells you how to treat donations. And the third one was when Jesus flipped the table because he was upset that people were selling stuff to the house of God. So let's go to the first point. 2 Kings 5, the very first verse says who Naaman was. Naaman was a commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in high favor with his master because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. This is important to understand because this man had a leprous disease and he heard that there was a prophet, a man of God that could heal him. So when the prophet of God, his name was Elisha, when he healed the man, in verse 15 in 2 Kings 5, he says, Then he returned to the man of God, and he and all his company. He came and stood before him and said, Now I know that there is no God in all earth except in Israel. Please accept a present from your servant. But Elisha said, As the Lord lives whom I serve, I will accept nothing. Because Elisha knew the importance of building the trust with God's people. He knew the importance of having integrity. He urged him to accept, but he refused. Now Elisha had a servant with him. His name is Gehazi. And Gehazi was very, very greedy. He went back to Naaman and he said, But when Naaman had gone from him a short distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought, My master has let the Aramean Naaman off too lightly by not accepting from him what he offered. Going back to 2 Kings 5, verse 25, he went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said to him, Where have you been, Gehazi? He answered, Your servant has not gone anywhere at all. But Elisha said to him, Did I not go with you in spirit when someone left his chariot to meet you? Is this a time to accept money and accept clothing, olive orchards and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male and female slaves? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and to your descendants forever. So he left his present leprous as white as snow. This happened because Gehazi was so greedy that he went back to Naaman. He accepted all the gifts that Elisha refused. Because once again, it is important to have integrity when delivering the word of the Lord. Because the Lord is trying to save people, He's trying to heal them. And when we do stuff like this, it creates distrust. Now, in 2 Kings 10:12, the temple was repaired. And it says, In the 7th year of Jehu, Joash began to reign. He reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. And Joash is a very important person to remember because he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Jehoash said to the priests, All the money offered as sacred donations that is brought into the house of the Lord, the money for which each person is assessed, the money from the assessment of persons, and the money from the voluntary offerings brought into the house of the Lord, let the priests receive from each of the donors, and let them repair the house wherever any need of repairs is discovered. But by 23rd year of King Jehoash, the priests had made no repairs to the house. Therefore King Jehoash summoned the priest Jehoiada with other priests and said to them, Why are you not repairing the house? Now therefore do not accept any money from your donors, but hand it over for the repair of the house. And the last point that I want to bring up is Matthew 21:12, when Jesus cleanses the temple. Then Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who were selling and buying in the temple, and he overturned the tables of the money chargers and the seat of those who sold doves. He said to them, It is written, My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it into a den of robbers. The blind and the lame come to him in the temple, and he cured them. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the amazing things he did and heard the children crying out in the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David, they became angry and said to them, Do you hear what they are saying? Jesus said to them, Yes, have you never read, Out of the mouths of infants and nursing babies, you have prepared praise for yourself? He left them, went out of the city to Bethany, and spent the night there. No, I'm not here to discredit any of the children of God. I'm just saying that when you have a very sensitive position, when you're doing something for the Lord, you have to realize you have a lot of people's souls in your hand. It's very important not to break the trust, the covenant that God has made with them. It's important to treat them with integrity, with kindness, and to give them the tools that they need because spiritual warfare is no joke. You know what I mean? It should not have to cost to tell somebody how to survive that. Because you might lose a soul and that's going to be on your watch. Please, when delivering the word of the Lord, I can't tell you how important it is to build the trust with the covenant. Because those are people of God, those are children of God that He loves very much. or when they're facing adversity and spiritual warfare, it should not cost to save their lives.